Well, good morning from wonderful, windy Wyoming. Glad to have you here with me this morning as we continue on our series on teacher training. And so we've went through the four core values we have personally here at Cornerstone Baptist Church. Yours may look a little different, but I think that they are some basic things that we want to accomplish with our ministry. So I have this training broken up into four quarters. This is number 11. The reason for that is I find that a lot of times we have some missed Sundays, and so I just took a couple of the Sundays out. Should be 13, I believe, and so that way that there's a little bit of wiggle room. So we're going to cover this lesson this morning. It's called Hard for Us, Easy for Them. And so this concept that my friend Mr. Mike teaches, he's over in Sinclair, a few miles on the interstate from us, but and so what it boils down to is us doing a little bit of extra to make it easier for those that we're leading to come alongside. And so let's go to Mark chapter number 14. And we're going to read a couple verses there, beginning in verse number 13. Mark 14, and we'll begin reading in verse number 13. Give you just a second to turn there. In Mark 14, beginning in verse 13, he says, And he sendeth forth two of his disciples, and saith unto them, Go ye into the city, and there shall meet you a man bearing a pitcher of water. Follow him. And wheresoever he shall go in, say ye to the good man of the house, The master saith, Where is the guest chamber where I shall eat the Passover with my disciples? And he will show you a large upper room, furnished and prepared. There make ready for us. And so what we see is Jesus sends some of the disciples. It's two of them, and they're going to prepare for everyone. And so they go and begin to prepare for this feast of the Passover. And so they are going to prepare all this. And so he tells them where to go, and there'll be a large upper room, and then they're going to be able to prepare for the group. And so two people were doing the work for everybody, and you'll see that often in ministry. They say like 10% of the people do 90% of the work. And so as we teach young people and are teaching in ministry, what we want to do is we want to go a little bit above and beyond. It's natural for us to do what's easiest, most convenient in ministry, but ministry is really about serving others. We want to help others to come to the Savior. And so an example that I use here is a memory verse. So let's say we want to teach the children a memory verse. We could use any memory verse. Let's just say John 3:16. What we could tell our students is, hey, this month we're going to learn John 3:16. Why don't you go home, study that verse, and come back next week, and we'll see who can recite it. The chances of anybody coming back with that verse are slim. They may go home. There may be all kinds of different versions of the Bible that children may learn from, so they come back the next week and they can't agree on what the word should be, or there could be maybe they get home and don't even have a Bible or don't know where to find their Bible at. And so there's some different ways that we can help teach our memory verse a little differently. So what we could do is we can make a printout, and we could take and print the verse onto a piece of paper and then send that home with the children, and so that they take the verse, it has the words right there, and so they have everything they need in order to memorize that, and we'll be a little bit more effective. We could also give that same piece of paper to our parents and ask them to work with their children and to help them memorize the verse. That may work a little bit more if the parents take initiative to help you teach that verse. Another step that we could do is sometimes we could put that same verse onto a picture, have the child color the picture, and then take that picture home to their parents, and more than likely it'll wind up on the fridge, and so it'll be there so that they can learn the verse. And so those are all different ways, different levels of work on our end, and you'll find the more work you put in on your end, the better the result is. And then we could take it a step further, and we could just teach them the verse ourselves. There's all kinds of fun ways to teach a verse in a class, and so we use a variety of ways. If you try to do the same verse the same way over and over again, it gets kind of boring. And so we try to come up with lots of different ways to teach memory verses. And so if you're interested in some of those, I have a list of different ones. And so you can reach out to me and I'll try to get you a list. We have the ones, stepping stones, where each word is a stone, and you try to get across the creek. And if you miss a word, we count to 3, and if they don't catch it by 3, we splash them. And then the next child tries, and if somebody gets to the far end, we give them a prize when they've completed the verse. We often repeat verses. There's all kinds of fun ways to repeat verses. You can go really low, you can go really high. You can say it, we do underwater, or you do rub your lips like this, and the kids really love that. Say it standing on one foot. Say it with your hand on your nose. Plug your nose and say the verse. So there's all kinds of different fun ways that we can help them to memorize the verse. Last week we were popping balloons, and so we popped the balloons, and the verse was inside of the balloons. We pulled them out and then put them together to form the verse. There's puzzles. We're doing puzzles today. We're actually going to make them use a straw to pick up the pieces and put it together. We did chains. We took the verses, made them into strip, the words, and then you have to loop them together and staple them to make a chain that makes the verse. And so there's all kinds of different ways that we can teach that verse in the class. So if we teach that verse in the class, then we are ensuring that our students are learning how to quote those verses. Now, it doesn't apply it to the heart, but it does help them to memorize them so that they have those verses in their mind. And then as we teach, we can help teach them to then apply that concept to their heart. And so, obviously, the more we do, the more work it takes on our end. But I believe that it's worth it in the end. When we can hear our children quote those verses, they learn to love those verses, and then they're able to excel because we've put in a lot more work to help them to get where they need to be. So I encourage us to use this concept. Hard for us, easy for them. We want coming to church, learning about Jesus, having a relationship and growing in that relationship as easy as we can for our students so that they can grasp that and move on with that. So if you have other examples of what we can do to make it to make it easier for those we're trying to reach, you can leave those down in the comments below, and I would love to hear from you. So with that, we're going to close for today, and Lord willing, we'll see you next time as we start the second quarter of this training.